Just a moment.
This is a story of life and death. You probably wouldn't expect that when talking about a game called Action Arcade Wrestling, but it's true. Action Arcade Wrestling is part of an old series of independently made Xbox Live Arcade games, the second game being most notable for its bizarre character creation system that allowed you to do almost anything. Mechanically, AAW is rather simplistic. As the name implies, it leans far more toward arcade-like play than simulation. You have weak and strong grapple attacks, a small assortment of strikes, some running attacks, and a couple submissions for everybody. It's actually kind of similar to the old Aki wrestling games, like WCW vs NWO or WWF No Mercy, except the pinfalls, which look like they're straight out of the WrestleMania arcade game. However, it doesn't function the same. For one, most of the game is controlled with a strike button, a grapple button, or pressing both at the same time. I'm pretty sure you could play this with an NES controller if you really wanted to. Instead of momentum bars, there are straight-up health bars. Power-ups can appear to grant various bonuses like stronger strikes or health regeneration. These can also be burned to kick out of pinfalls. Said power-ups can also be gained by performing spots, or specific moves called out mid-match. And yes, these can be turned off. All that being said, it doesn't have much in the way of depth or complexity. For example, you can only do front grapples, no back grapples. Whoever wins a tie-up is solely based upon who can mash the fastest. Weapon hit detection is a little suspect. You can't hit opponents in multi-man matches unless you're targeting them, or throwing another wrestler into them. I guess the silver lining there is you're less likely to get ganged up on playing online, something that's usually made online play awful for wrestling games. You can't run diagonally, drag opponents to the turnbuckles, or do anything on the apron. And glitches? Aside from animations not lining up or otherwise bugging out, the camera sometimes gets a little confused. Multi-man matches had a habit of breaking, specifically opponents getting stuck to the mat but the game thinking they're standing up, or wrestlers on the apron glitching into the ring, then getting tagged in, and neither they nor their opponent being able to attack each other, meaning you can't pin them, submit them, or otherwise end the match at all. The developers are still patching, updating, and adding features to the game when they can, though considering they're a small team that doesn't/can't work on the game full-time, patience is a necessary virtue. One of the more entertaining aspects of AAW is the arsenal of moves available. Yes, there are the usual wrestling moves, but since the game isn't supposed to be realistic, they added some crazy crap like lightning bolts, laser beams, and various other unrealistic or otherwise physics-defying moves, like the Kiniku Buster, as it was meant to be done.
Oh my god!
The game's strongest selling point, though, in case you couldn't tell already, is the character and arena creation suite, called the AAW Wrestle Lab. It's available separate from the game and is 100% free, so if you really wanted to, you could make stuff for the game without actually buying it. Thanks to the ability to add textures and manually edit UV maps, as well as contort bodies and add shape pieces wherever you want, you can make damn near anything into a wrestler, be it male, female, robot, ogre, South Park character, or even inanimate objects. If you ever wanted to see a Bloody Roar character wrestle a giant Bic pen, that's an option. Earthworm Jim versus a bottle of Faygo? Sure, why not? Or how about Nemesis versus a broken Pepsi machine? Created wrestlers can then be sorted into federations, each of which has a primary, secondary, and tag team title to fight over. It's also easy to set up this sort of thing immediately, as the servers allow for up to 60 downloads per user per day. For people who buy wrestling games primarily to create their own wrestlers and run their own federations, Action Arcade Wrestling is a solid option. Something about this seems off, though. There isn't any sort of single player outside of exhibition matches against CPUs, though the developers say another mode is in the works. The base roster of wrestlers is loaded not with real wrestlers, but what looked like characters from those 90s comics I ignored to get to the latest issue of Ghost Rider. Even the voiceovers seem a bit haphazardly done, as you can hear the announcer blatantly popping peas into the mic.
A new power-up has appeared! Speed!
It seems like this game is missing something, and that's because it is. You see, Action Arcade Wrestling was not the original title of the game. Instead, it was called Chikara Action Arcade Wrestling. What's a Chikara? Well, Chikara was an independent wrestling promotion near Philadelphia which focused on fun, family-friendly wrestling. You know, that thing WWE says they do but tends to fail miserably at. They borrowed heavily from lucha libre and comic books. It's where you would see stuff like invisible hand grenades.
What? Oh no! That is a grenade! Well, this is bad news for everyone. Especially Kodama. There is a live grenade in that man's trunks.
Chuck Taylor! The most atomic of all atomic drops!
Spontaneous slow motion.
Oh, Big Magic just dipped one of the...
Oh, Connor roll by Darren Corbin. Kick out! Out at two.
Spontaneous referee murder.
Archibald Peck. Oh no! Archibald Peck had revenge on his mind, and unfortunately, Bryce Remsburg is the collateral damage, the innocent bystander. No!
And low ceilings, among other things.
First blemish on the record!
Oh no!
That's not to say the wrestling wasn't good. After all, several WWE, AEW, ROH, Impact, and New Japan wrestlers and staffers have worked or trained with them. The longest reigning world champion in their history was current AEW wrestler Eddie Kingston. Here's an incomplete list of people that worked or trained with Chikara in their careers. Anyway, this was going to be the first major video game release for Chikara. Well, one that wasn't a mobile puzzle matching app. It got funding through Indiegogo back in 2016, and the development team, which consisted of 3 or 4 people, only one of which was a programmer, got to work. And yes, the comic book inspired wrestling promotion is part of why this game uses cel shading. The game didn't release until October of 2019, and while not a smash hit, it got a predominantly positive response from those who played it. Then the pandemic hit. Unable to run shows, Chikara would instead produce an online series of matches called Action Arcade. A few months later, however, the speaking out movement happened, bringing forth evidence and accusations of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse and harassment in professional wrestling at all levels and in a variety of promotions, including Chikara. At first, the accusations were just related to one Chikara wrestler, but when the trail led back to Mike Quackenbush, the founder of Chikara and head trainer of its wrestling school, he responded by shutting down both Chikara and the school. Then he put out a video where he simultaneously accepted responsibility, deflected responsibility, and denied responsibility for various things he did or that happened under his watch. And the point of all of this is that the game had to rebrand to just become Action Arcade Wrestling. Those Chikara wrestlers who were part of the game's original roster, gone. The arena that's made to look like their Wrestle Factory training school, gone. Mike Quackenbush narrating the matches and the tutorials, gone.
A new power-up is rebrand. Health Steal.
The one Chikara tie that hasn't been removed is in the credits. Under the Indiegogo supporter list is former Chikara wrestler and trainer Mr. Claudio Castagnoli, better known today as Cesaro. I sort of forgot I was supposed to be reviewing a game. Anyway, Action Arcade Wrestling is a rough-around-the-edges, ongoing project of a game. In its current state, it caters more toward people who either want to take advantage of the creative suite, or just want something simple to run a wrestling federation or a tournament. If you don't have someone else to play with on a regular basis, maybe wait on a sale or for more modes to get added. Otherwise, feel free to get it and do some, how should I phrase this?
Dumb, clown, ass, bull, shit!